DNA. This is something you've probably heard of both in fiction and in non-fiction. It comes up a lot. It is an active research topic. It tends to be a key plot point when it comes to science fiction. So yeah, like I said, it comes up a lot. But what exactly is DNA? And what exactly does it do in the body? I think most of us have at least a vague idea of what it is. I mean, you may even have heard of the catchphrase that is often used to describe DNA, and that is the saying that DNA is the building blocks of life. But what does that mean? How does one use the building blocks of life to, build life? Ladies and gentlemen, it is April Fool's Week, the week in which this tech channel gets to take a break and talk about any other topic under the sun. So, today, let's talk about DNA, because why not? You're watching another Random Wednesday episode on 0612 TV. Hello and welcome to another Random Wednesday episode, April Fool's Week edition. Today, we're going to be talking about DNA. Now, DNA and genetics is a very wide field. There is no way I'm going to do it justice. So instead, what I'm going to do today is what I normally do. Oversimplify the entire subject and just paint a very broad picture. So yeah, I'm no expert on this subject, and there is no way I can give you a complete understanding of all the intricate details. So take this as a starting point for you to learn more if you're interested. What we're gonna do today is we're just gonna scrape the surface of the entire topic. We're only gonna be looking at two things. What even is DNA? And how is it used to actually build life, as we've mentioned earlier? So let's jump right into the first part, and that is what DNA even is. Well, DNA is actually a very long molecule. It contains a very long backbone, and located all along this backbone are what is known as nucleotides. Of course, when we see DNA in media, it's always in this double helix kind of pattern. It's never like what I just drew on screen. The reason for this is because DNA generally exists in pairs. You actually have two strands of DNA side by side stuck to each other, and that is what gives you that iconic shape. Anyway, as you can imagine, the coolest part about DNA are of course the nucleotides. Each nucleotide carries a nucleobase, and on DNA you can find 4 types of bases. Basically, most of the time we refer to them as the first letter of their names, which are A, C, T, and G. One interesting property about nucleotides is that certain types of nucleotides are attracted to certain other nucleotides. That is, A is attracted to T, C is attracted to G. That in fact explains why DNA is normally in a double helix pattern, because the nucleotides on these two strands actually stick to each other. Kind of like magnets, but the force isn't magnetic. Of course, what that means is for two strands of DNA to adhere nicely to each other, their contents must be complementary. That is in fact the case. Your body actually synthesizes a strand of DNA that is complementary to a main strand so that they can stick together. And when they stick together, they're more stable and it is just more protected. But why is there a need to protect DNA? As it turns out, it's because of the function of DNA, which is pretty important. The nucleotides on the coding strand actually carry some important information. In fact, it is very similar to how a computer carries information encoded in bits, except in DNA, it's encoded in the patterns, the different combinations of the nucleotides. This information is important because your body actually uses this information to synthesize proteins. Proteins are what make up your organs, and what this means is DNA actually carries the code for your body to produce important things, like your organs, as well as whatever is necessary to repair them. But how? How does DNA carry this information, and how is this information actually used? Here's how. The proteins that actually make up your organs are actually synthesized from a simpler building block, called an amino acid. In order to build up a protein, your body actually has to chain together many amino acids. But how does your body know what amino acids to use to actually build up the proteins it needs to build? Well, that is where it turns to DNA. Turns out, your DNA actually contains instructions telling your body what amino acids to string together, for what purpose. If we were to actually move down the line and read off the nucleotides in groups of 3, that actually tells us which amino acid to use next to produce the protein that is required. Some combinations of nucleotides are even control codes. In particular, some of them say start, some of them say stop. So what that means is, well, your body knows exactly what instructions to read out to produce an exact protein. Of course, that was just how information is actually held on the DNA. We're not going to be going into the specifics of how your body actually reads the DNA and generates a protein, because that actually requires quite a bit of additional understanding. So yeah, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a very abridged version of what your body actually does when it comes to synthesizing protein. First of all, your DNA is read and a template is actually generated. This template carries what is essentially a duplicate of the information in your DNA. Now, this template is actually transported to an area in which protein is actually synthesized, and basically in this area there is a bunch of amino acids floating around. Now, these amino acids are also associated with nucleotides, 3 of them in fact. And these are actually complementary to the coding that is specified on the template. All that happens now is an enzyme runs along the length of the template, reading it in groups of 3. It will get relevant amino acids to snap into place. And the reason why this can happen is because, well, the nucleotides are actually complementary. So when you have found the correct amino acid, all the nucleotide pairs attract, and that's how you know you've gotten the correct amino acid. So yeah, rinse and repeat until you see the triplet of nucleotides that says stop. When you see that, the protein synthesis is complete. And there you have it. Now you have a very rough, superficial idea of how the building blocks of life actually work, how they actually come together to build your proteins. Like I said, I was very vague throughout the entire duration of this episode, and necessarily so because we can't go into all the nitty-gritty details. And that is just one facet of a very broad subject. There are many other things you can think about in genetics. For example, how does DNA replicate? What happens if DNA is damaged? How does your body fix that? How is this information passed down from generation to generation, and how does it change over time? All of these are things worth looking into and are very interesting when you understand them. Unfortunately, like I said, I am no expert, and so I don't want to go into too much detail in case I mislead you. In fact, if I've gotten anything wrong within this episode, please do leave a comment below to correct me. But yeah, that basically wraps it up for this episode. Hopefully you've gotten a superficial understanding of what DNA is. That's all there is for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, you're watching 0612 TV. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, consider checking out the rest of my work on my channel. Alternatively, you may be interested in my other vlogs. If you'd like to show me some monetary support, I am on Patreon. You can find a link to my campaign in the video description. Of course, you can simply like this video or leave a comment. I'll be sure to respond as soon as I can. To keep in touch with my future uploads, do subscribe to this channel. And for even more updates, check out the official Twitter account for this channel at 0612TV. Thank you for your support.